We're back. So you think you can compose episode 2. Thank you so much for joining me, all our improvisers, our creators out there. My name is Ludwig Chivranis, and in today's episode, we're going to be studying a new visionary, a new hero in art. His name is Leonardo da Vinci. So for those that aren't familiar with how the series works, each week we're going to introduce a new, very famous character, a trailblazer in history, and I'd like to share with you how I improvise musical themes or ideas that represent their character or perhaps even what they've contributed to the world. So, when I think of Leonardo da Vinci, he is the true Renaissance man. If you don't know, he is the man that painted Mona Lisa, but he also loved science. He was an inventor, he loved math, he loved all things to do with nature, flight. So, I wondered, how do I capture all that? It's quite tricky, but I'm going to give it a little go. All right. First and foremost, he loved beauty. He loved art. And so I came up with this little opening. It's like a chorale. And you notice how it's always climbing? That represents to me someone that's always reaching for something higher, something greater than them. So I played this in the key of G major. And then I just moved up by step. I was like, what would A sound like as a triad? That sounds good. What about B? Nope. Sounds like Teletubbies have just bounced out of the hills, right? Now you don't want the B major. What if you made it B minor? Oh, that's kind of nice. G, A, B minor. So something that you can play around with is take a scale and for each degree or each note of that scale, turn it into a triad and make it either major or minor. Use your ears, figure out what works best for you or what's most appropriate for the character. Another really nice progression that I played around with was here right at the bottom when he has this moment of realization, whatever that may be. And that's where I go from G, I shift to D, but check this out. Oh, the heavens have opened up. All right, so you're starting on G, get back there, starting on G, and then you go up a minor third. So from G to B flat, and I make it a major chord. So you guys can also play around with that. If you want this feeling of all of a sudden, this openness, start on any key, find a major third, so that's a whole step and a half step up. If I started on C, I would go to E flat, and listen to this, G to E flat major. All right, something to play around with. All right, so he was an inventor. I figured I'd just write an invention. So I took a leaf out of Bach's book. I really like this rhythm. And so that's what I played around with. I've never written an invention before. This is my first attempt. And so it sounds like this. All right. The full invention goes just a couple measures longer. But what I would suggest to do is play around with some two-part inventions by Bach. Rewrite them for yourself. Take one theme and see what you can do with a very simple rhythm, communicating a line from the right hand through to the left hand. So you want to create just a little dialogue. So yeah, invention, created an invention. That was theme 2. Theme 3, he was very fascinated with mathematics and anatomy. So I took that same theme, but made it just a little bit more rough and tumble. And then right hand. I'm always playing around with chromatics, right? So taking D minor, shifting everything down by a half step. I thought that sounded really cool. And if I matched it up with the left hand, it's almost like they're having a fight with one another. He's rough and tumble with mathematics, trying to figure out equations and how to apply them to his own inventions. Then anatomy, the pure wonder of anatomy. I put the pedal down. I have the same idea as in the left hand, but in the right hand, I have these open chords, fifths. Right? So one way that you can play around with is if you have two subjects and you want them to sound a little bit different, use this, use roughly the same harmonies, but you can play with open chords. So you play an octave, and then you create a fifth within that octave. So A, D, A. That's quite beautiful. C, G, C. And add just a touch of pedal as well. So that was my improv over mathematics and anatomy, but still maintaining the as the inventor. All right, so this is his love of the natural world and flight. I've noticed that with a lot of my writing, I really enjoy playing arpeggios in the left hand. It creates a very sparse feel and it makes the music feel like it's moving. What do I have here in the right hand? Oh, it's the same thing. So this is what I had stumbled over. I start on one chord and then I played around with many different triads in the scale and I landed on this here, starting on F, going to D flat. How good is that? Starting on F, going to E flat. I wanted to have this feeling of wonder, and so this was the first thing that came to mind. How distant can I make the harmonies sound? So that's what I added in here. D flat. Let's stretch to E flat. Let's take it half a step up. So there's always the sense of lifting, right? So that was my idea of the natural world. Flight, I love this here, the whole tone scale. All right, it's not quite Cinderella. It's flight. And then I played around with just changing the rhythm, going back and forth. Listen to this. So if you don't know the whole tone scale, it's a scale that is only made up of whole tones. And so those are the two things that I played around with to create this feeling of the natural world, starting on one key and then experimenting to seeing if I could find other triads that were otherworldly, right? So for this one here was D flat and E flat. And then this feeling of flight and I guess just magic. The whole tone scale is always my go-to. All right, so hopefully that gave you guys some tips, some ideas for your own improv. Tune in again next week where we're going to explore a completely new visionary and hero. Watch this space. All right, happy creating, guys.